All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Lady Boot Hammerfrost, and I am a member of the Duchy of Lupin Moon up here in the Kingdom of Northreach. And today, by royal request and decree, we are going to go ahead and do a quick instructional seminar regarding recruitment and fundraising booths with a specific focus on effective recruitment techniques. I am joined today by Oberon. He is a man at arms to Dame Zyajin. He's also one of our local monarchs and has a plethora of experience in recruitment in real life. So let me go ahead and pull up my outline here, and we're going to go ahead and go into it. So as I said, my name is Boot. My real name is April, and I have played Amtgard for about 11 years now. Next week is that anniversary. So I've had plenty of experience in multiple seats and multiple events here while we've been a part, we being myself and my husband, have been a part of Amtgard. I have experience not only here in Northreach, but myself and my husband also founded parks down in Dragonspine that have gone on to be fairly successful, and at one point was actually the seat of the kingdom for Dragonspine. I also have experience in nonprofits outside of Amtgard. I've been a part of multiple 501c3s, including, local conventions such as SenshiCon, AuroraCon once upon a time. I've also been a representative of NAMI, or the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I worked with them quite a bit in both recruitment, retention, and local outreaches. So I have a little bit of knowledge on the subject matter that we're going over. Oberon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Oberon. I'm the monarch at Ravenstone. My experience outside of Amtgard and recruiting is I have 8 years as a recruiter for the Alaska Army National Guard, and I've actually been recognized for national level awards and flown to DC to get all kinds of extra training and awards for my experience and effectiveness in the field.
The man's knows what he's doing. All right. So the goals of our presentation today are, they're twofold, with a couple of bullet points underneath those main goals. First and foremost, we want to go over and be a source of education. Our main points that we intend to hit today for that education are ways to draw in a crowd while you're at a recruitment booth. Of course, you can stand there and look nice, but really the money, the real sauce, one could say, is how to draw in a crowd, how to make your booth and what you are attempting to offer them, in our case, Amtgard, attractive. We're going to go over how to spot true interest. So there's a big difference between somebody who is politely interested and waiting for you to stop talking and somebody who is actually interested in what you have to offer. We're going to go over the use of highly attractive language, things that are like, if you've already got the hook out there, these are how to yank the hook and start reeling them in. And of course, we're going to secure commitment, which is making sure to see through to the end these people that you were recruiting and having them have a successful time with what you're offering. Again, in our case, Amtgard. The other point of this is not just education, but edification. So for the edification of the people who are watching this, the people who are present, not only is this a good skill for while you are attending Amtgard, while you are assisting Amtgard in recruitment booths, the skill translation for this also translates into other real life skills. If you have a job where you are frequently seeing the public, the customer service, or admin work where you're frequently talking to customers or patients or what have you, there's a whole lot of skill translation that goes on with this too. There's a whole lot of confidence that also comes with knowing exactly what your techniques and tips are, and knowing when to reel in that line and when to let it go. There's a big sense of confidence that you're not floundering once you actually have something in front of you that's a little more solid. It's also a paying it forward. So what I mean by paying it forward is the skills that you learn now and are able to practice as we do more booths, as you help volunteer and participate. these are skills and techniques that you'll be able to pass on later to newer members, to members who are perhaps a little more amateur and volunteering. It's a way to make our game grow, and it's something that you'll be able to help pass on to the newer generations of Amtgard. And of course, this always helps future events. The more people that we have on the same level of education and the same wavelength when it comes to knowing exactly what it is to run the front of a house of a fundraising or recruitment booth is super duper helpful, and hopefully will result in successful events for all of us. Like I said before, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to look in the classes and recordings chat. If you don't know how to do that in Discord, you can, if you are on a computer, right-click the actual voice channel. You'll see open chat, head to there. I believe on mobile it's very similar. There's a function where you can open the chat there. If you're unable to do that, of course you can type in general chat. I cannot guarantee that I will see that right away. I am going to ask that while we are all here learning and listening, that any questions that you do have are in type. If you guys can make sure not to chime in voice or make any extra noise unless specifically asked to, that would be wonderful. That way, again, this is being recorded, so that way there isn't a whole bunch of muddled noise in the background. And of course, Oberon, as we talked about before, if you have anything to chime in, you are welcome to interrupt me. Absolutely.
I'll try and keep it to a minimum.
Minimum, maximum, whatever works for you, dude. All right, so we are going to hit our number one step of recruitment. There is something to be said about, again, standing there, hanging out at a table, waiting for people to see you in your super cool garb. But it's altogether another idea to bullet point number one, draw a crowd. So the very first thing when you are drawing a crowd that is important is your booth. People eat with their eyes first. And no, not some like terrible eldritch being or anything like that. What that means is that appearance matters quite a bit when it comes to, again, any sort of recruitment, retention, booth, and it comes to first impressions. So people eat with their eyes first. This means you want attractive facing on your booth. So we're going to be taking a look at clean. It's going to have good repair. It's going to be decorated, and not decorated with, kind of grubby, grody looking things or things that have obviously been in storage for a very long time and not well taken care of. When I talk about attractive facing, what I mean is clear and concise banners. We want a good presentation. People know exactly what it is that they're looking at a glance. Up here in Ravenstone and Palmer, and I believe sometimes it travels up to some of the other parks, in Ravenstone and Lupin Moon, pardon me. We do have a super duper cool standing vinyl banner that we use for the state fair or some of the other recruitment events that we've had. And it very concisely says, this is for the Kingdom of Northreach. This is for Amtgard. Here are our prices. Here is our fight ring. Here is what you are able to do. It also has QR codes. There's all sorts of stuff that is visible just at a quick glance. And even aside from that signage, we want the table that you have, you don't want it just to be a folding table, right? Like you look over it somewhere and you want, especially something that is supposed to have a fantasy feel. We are frequently utilizing vinyl tablecloths that have stone printed on them or wood grain in prints, something that would make it look like a table. You walk into a tavern and this is the sort of thing that you would see. Same thing with our pennants, and same thing with our banners. These are the things that you might see hanging up on a castle wall or in the manor of some great lord. And they are well taken care of. They are ironed. They are not wrinkly. They are very presentable. They also catch the eye, which is another one of our points. It is a very unique thing that we are selling here at Amtgard. Live action roleplay in and of itself is wonderful and interactive, and it's also attached to a small but noticeable stigma. Just that is very quickly feathering away, thanks to a huge cultural movement and things like Critical Role in the absolute explosion of success for Dungeons and Dragons in mainstream. That being said, any little edge that we can give ourselves to show people that it's socially cool and acceptable and very, very interesting is an absolute boon to what we're trying to do. So this means eye-catching. This means, again, the banners, the pennants, the goods that are displayed. And this also means that the people who are there are presentable. Hold on. Looks like I have some questions in there. Yes, Ezreal, this is about the volunteering. All right. Before we move into the people, we are going to take a look at some of the attractors to avoid while you are at your booth face. So again, everything we have is clean and attractive, and it's easily identifiable. People can disseminate information quickly while they're taking a look. But there are some things to avoid that can make the eye either very quickly pass over our booth or make it unattractive to stop at. So, and I'm very thankful this year for the people that are volunteering to autocrat the Three Barons Renaissance Fair. They have made a request, a very, request is probably the polite word. They pretty much said this is what's happening. Historically, it's super cool to hang out at a booth after your shift is over and say hi to your friends and, rub elbows, have fun. It's like a socializing time, right? Well, if your booth is inundated with more staff who aren't in shift than is necessary, your booth is going to look overcrowded. It's going to look busy. It's going to look chaotic. And it's one thing to stop and talk with your friends, but it's another altogether to make something look inaccessible because there's already too many people. How many times have you looked a line and said, I guess I'll come back later because there's already too many people in it, or it's lengthy, or you walk into a social situation where everybody is already friends and talking and chumming it up, and there's not a whole lot of room for you to elbow in. That's kind of what we're looking to avoid when I talk about crowded with staff. The other detractor that is really, really important to keep an eye on is back to that appearance. So if you're selling goods, you want all of your goods arranged in a way that's attractive. So as you sell out, there starts to be holes in your inventory or what you're presenting, right? I've seen it plenty of times with plenty of different booths that we've run. We'll have swords hanging from the rafters, or we'll have swords that were out on display also for sale. And those swords very quickly can sell out, but if you don't refill it in a timely manner, if you don't refill it as they sell very quickly, that can look like a lack of inventory and a lack of organization. It doesn't create a sense of urgency like you might think it does. It creates more of a sense of chaos, of they're not really paying attention to their booth. There's not really a whole lot of stuff left. This is slim pickings. I'm not sure if this is something I really want to take a look at because it doesn't look like it's very well kept. So those are some of the detractors that you want to try to avoid. Make sure that things aren't overly crowded. Make sure they're clean. Make sure they're presentable. Make sure they're faced. Before I move on to the next point, are there any questions? Exactly, Rowan. It's kind of like a storefront or a retail.
If I can chime in, it's a good idea for whoever's running the booth to every now and then take a step out, walk through as though they're a customer, so that they can see what the book like or what the booth looks like from the perspective of your potential people. Because sometimes you get locked in the idea of like, I'm here, I'm doing my thing, but you got to take that step back and be like, okay, what is my customer base seeing?
Absolutely, Oberon. That is always a really good idea as somebody who is going to be running or autocrating a booth, or even somebody who is just on sales. Having somebody who's always going to have eyes on what does this look like, especially the person who is running the booth, like you said. Is it following the vision that they have for what the booth should look like? And if it's not, take steps to fix it. So I've got a couple more messages. A couple people talking here. kind of like a storefront in retail. Yep. Speaking of looks and such, I got a really great deal on some blah, 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 blah. Rowan, I'm going to have you, that's not super pertinent for this right now. I'm not actually running the booth. I will have you contact members of House Stonefist for that. You can probably just tag like Gothic here in Discord and let them know. All right, we're going to move on to our next point. Ezreal, no, you didn't miss a whole bunch. You got in right towards the beginning. You're fine. All right, so we're going to move on to point 2 here, which is drawing a crowd continued. Moving on to staff members. Okay, so we're going to hit point A, which I have lovingly titled in my outline, I don't want no scrubs. So what this means is if you are attending and helping a booth, if you are attending and helping at a booth, you have a couple of things that, along with your time, which everyone appreciates you volunteering, there is a social contract that you're going to probably be asked to follow. And the first point of that is, please be well-garbed. And by well-garbed, I mean clean, fully garbed, well-kept, showered. You are presentable. It's not rolling out of bed with 3-day greasy hair and a grouchy mood and throwing on wrinkled garb. That is a very 1990s grudge, and we are in the 2020s, and we want to look like we want to be there. So please, if you are volunteering, take a shower and groom yourself. You don't have to put on a full face of makeup like I do to not look like a cave troll, but you want to be on your very best appearance. You want to be on your very best smell. You want to be non-offensive appearance-wise. Arcturus says, just wait until I roll up in my denim wizard robes with my potion of monster energy. You know what? I would dig it. I would dig it. The second part of volunteering and kind of, again, that social contract is know what you're doing. Be well-versed. Anyone can answer any question is the ideal. So when it comes to, like, we're going to use the Three Barons Fair as a example. So there are multiple positions and multiple steps that go into running a booth. Some are front of house, some are back of house. Back of house is things like building the swords that we're selling, helping set up the booth. They are a lot of the elbow and grease work that it takes. But to be front of house means it's a little bit more charisma and intelligence based, to use Dungeons and Dragons stats. You want to be well versed on any question that might be asked of you. So it's one thing to be like, hey, how much do these swords cost? Oh, I can tell you how much these swords cost because it's over here on our banner. But it's another thing to be not looking at the banner and you're in the middle of the ring and somebody says, I really like these swords. How much are they? Everyone should always know how much their things are. They should know this is where we meet for Amtgard. If you need more information, you're welcome to go to the front where we have pamphlets or flyers. There shouldn't ever be a breakdown of, hey, what's the answer to this super basic question? More complicated questions? No, I could totally see it. Because, you know, I've run into it before where I don't have the answer for everything. But for the most part, if you're there, you should know what you're selling. You should know what you're trying to offer people. And everybody should be able to speak to it. So doing a little bit of research and a little bit of studying beforehand is super duper helpful to everybody involved, because you're also taking away the intellectual and emotional labor for all of the autocrats to answer everything. If you're there and you've made sure to commit to memory all of the details that you know that new players will ask, or potential new players, that spreads out a little bit of that load to everybody involved. And it's super helpful. And then, of course, like I kind of touched on earlier, if you are going to be there, want to be there, all right? So this means an enthusiastic, excited attitude. You don't have to be all rainbows and sparkles like yours truly, but what you should be is not blasé. You should not be impassive. You shouldn't be, yeah, you can show up if you want to, I guess. You should be ready and excited to have new players and to make new friends. This is what being front of house means. This means that you are the face and ambassador of our game. So, in being that sort of ambassador, this means that you are going to want to be excited to talk to, be excited to draw in, and be able and willing to be present while you are in a conversation with somebody. Does that make sense? All right. Oberon, do you have anything on those points before I go on?
So yeah, people can hear your smile even if they can't see your smile. So ridiculous as it is, even if you're like, man, I'm not a really smiley person, just thinking in your head, hey, I'm smiling, I'm happy. People can hear that. It sounds super cheesy, but it actually does make an actual difference. Also, when it comes to engaging and stuff, like Boot said, product knowledge is huge. You need to be able to answer the basic questions. Also, for me, whenever I'm running a booth for any kind of thing, if I have people standing behind the table that are not specifically running like cash or information, I'm kicking them out. You should not be hiding behind things. I know that tends to be our comfort zone, is to have something that barriers between us and the other people, but that's exactly what we don't want to have in recruitment. We want to be out there and engaging, drawing people in.
Absolutely. And I touch a little bit later on in one of those bullet points, but Oberon makes a wonderful segue. We're going to move on into the hard and soft skills of actual recruitment now that we have appearance and attitude down. And again, I'm seeing some great comments over here in chat. Let's see, Lappin is a cave troll. It's actually 3 cave trolls in a trench coat. That makes sense. We have Arcturus agreeing that body language is just as important as verbals. Absolutely. All right. The next one that we're going to go into before we start into the nitty gritty of actual recruiting is point B, flaunt it if you've got it. All right. So this is a personal favorite section of mine. So we're going to move into some of the things that you can be doing before you even start the initial one-on-one conversation to begin the recruitment process. Now, a lot of these are going to be probably hard for multiple people to do at once, so it does take some coordination. And be prepared to do these. It might not be everyone's strong suit, but at least having the knowledge to go ahead and work on some of these is going to be important. So one of the things that goes into being the excited and enthusiastic is hawking. Not like hawking a loogie, all right? But hawking, as in selling what you have. So for some places, this means I'm gonna use myself as an example, and I'm also going to use Arcturus in this example. So Arcturus this coming week will be with us for 1 year. And we met Arcturus at a 3 Barons Fair last year. And from what I recall, Arcturus saying one of their very first impressions was a very loud and enthusiastic lady up in one of our castle towers, taunting them to come fight in our ring. And again, it worked. Exactly, Arcturus. It worked too. So hawking is making it known what you are selling very, very quickly, concisely, and probably loudly. So for myself, for example, I hop up in the tower. I don't do it every 5 seconds because that's not a great idea. You don't want to verbally fatigue people, but you yell out, 3 fights, $5, fight your friends, fight your family, a whole plethora of these lines that you'll hear used over and over and over again at a lot of these events. But having that verbal component of dragging people in and getting their attention. Different places have different rules on hawking. 3 Barons Fair is a lawless wasteland. As long as you're not playing loud, consistent modern music, it is a lawless wasteland. But it's very, very effective. So using your voice to make people aware of what's going on. Think about when you're in the mall, right? So you're walking in, let's say the Diamond Mall, and they have all of those little booths where the people are like, hey, your skin looks like it could use a glow. You want to try some of our lotion? Or, hey, do you want to take a look at my looks here, my goods here? That's kind of what we're doing, but way less creepy because we're not addressing it usually at a single person. It's just kind of out there. You're just making people generally aware that they can beat the living daylights out of their friends in our ring if they want to. Soft hawking. So soft hawking is a little bit different than general hawking. It's not just yelling at a tower for a crowd to come see you. We're going to look at this scenario. You've yelled, you've invited people to come step into our ring, to take a look at our swords, to see the live action roleplay game that we want them to get involved in. You look down from your tower. You look up into the beautiful eyes of Arcturus. You've made eye contact. There's interest. And you tell them, you look like you'd like this. You should take a look. Are you interested in live action roleplay? Go head over to the front of the booth. Take a look at some of the pamphlets we have. Soft hawking is recognizing when somebody has been interested in what you have and prompting them further to take a look, to dive into that interest. Again, maybe not for everybody, right? Not everybody has a chest full of confidence to start yelling at strangers. But it is a very useful tool, and it is something that if you are, like, say, on the sales position, or even the guard position if the sales position is predisposed, that is something that you can at least keep in your back pocket, and you want to be prepared to do that. And of course, the last one is the visual eye catch. Not just what our booth looks like, not just the fact that you are clean and showered. Dear God, please be clean and showered. But do you have a full... Okay, we're going to use Valen as an example. Valen, full plate, tall, super cool looking, right? If Valen goes marching around in that armor, people notice because it's eye-catching, right? You don't see people... Like, you might every so often see, like, super cottagecore enthusiast folks walk around in what looks like garb to us. That's cool. But you know what you don't see at the mall every day is a dude who's like 6.5 feet tall marching around in plate mail. That's really cool. You know what else you don't normally see? The big monster hunter sword that Runeheart made that we use at booths all the time that get people to stop and stare. That's really cool. So the other portion of, before we get into the one-on-one recruitment, is do you have something that's really cool and maybe a little gimmicky that makes people pay attention? What do you have that's eye-catching? And that's the name of the bullet point, is eye-catching. And if you guys don't have anything eye-catching, like a big item or a shiny item, what do you do to become eye-catching? Do you yell up from in a tower and, yell down at people? Or do you, I don't know, start telling people as you're hawking, oh, hey, look, it looks like you guys are arguing. You know what's cheaper than couples therapy? Stepping into our ring. Like, I don't suggest doing that one very often. But, however, that kind of goes in part with the eye-catching. All right, so since we're past some of those kind of soft skills that you want to be prepared to do, we're going to go into the next large point that we have, which is the one-on-one recruiting. And this is one that I expect that Oberon will have a lot to say in because he definitely has a whole ton of experience in this. And so the first portion of the recruiting that we want to go into is gauging true interest versus polite nodding. All right. And so sometimes I'm going to put a precursor on this. I don't expect everyone to understand all social cues at all times. We do have people of differing social abilities. Either, whether it's through being neurodivergent, whether social anxiety, or whether just not very practiced in facing the public. I don't expect everyone to be perfect at these things. These are guidelines to use if you find yourself in these situations. But also, please don't let the idea of interaction one-on-one with somebody absolutely terrify you if you have these to go by, all right? So the first thing, like I said, we're going to do is true interest versus polite nodding. And we're going to take a look at body language. So say that you are on sales at a booth and you are taking a look at the people passing by and your hawkers are up there doing their thing, and your friends are out here getting people interested in playing Amtgard. And as you are there at the head of the booth, somebody approaches and they start looking around the booth and they are touching stuff and they are picking up flyers. And this is the first indicator that there might be some interest. Now, there's a big difference between somebody who's looking at our stuff in a passive way and somebody who is super duper duper interested in what we are doing. And a good way to recognize that is when they're in there, do we have their attention? Are they just kind of perusing another booth until they can get to the next booth? Or are they waiting for the line at the turkey legs to die down? Or are they actually absorbing what we have there? And so when somebody first enters the booth, of course, you should always greet them. Acknowledge that they exist. It's a great idea. Even if you are with somebody else in the middle of a sale, or if you are with somebody else in the middle of a recruitment pitch, at least take a look over that person's shoulder and say, "Hi, welcome. I'll be with you in just a moment." That way people feel seen. That being said, that also sort of starts a timer, so to speak, right? So they step in and they're taking a look around, and you have a little bit to grab their interest right while they're there. So that's why we acknowledge their presence. But as soon as you greet them is when you can kind of start taking a look at that timer. Are they actually staying here? Are they trying to scoot out before I can talk to them? What are we looking at when they're actually here taking a look at our things? Most people who are genuinely interested are going to wait to talk to you. Most people who are maybe not quite so much interested are going to take a look at our things and they're going to say, maybe later, or they're going to say, not for me, and they're going to move on. And that's okay. A big part of recruitment is knowing the difference between passive interest and active interest. The next part regarding this body language is, are they making eye contact? Are their eyes kind of wandering around? Is their body facing you, or is their body facing the way that they're trying to leave? So another good way to kind of gauge if somebody's interested is their body wrapped and towards you. Is their body language excited, or is it ready to go? You can kind of tell this when you're talking to people in everyday life too, right? Say you're talking to your buddy and your buddy is like super into the conversation that you have. Like maybe you guys are talking about, I don't know, the fact that Diablo 4 drops in a week. I'm super excited about that. Or is it somebody who said, "Oh yeah, hi buddy," and then keeps going? That's kind of something you need to pay attention to, as well as, the eye contact. You need to pay attention to are they coming? Are they going? Do they have enthusiasm for what they're talking with you about? Are they kind of like, "Yeah, hey man, that's cool," or whatever? Or are they like, "Holy moly, tell me more"? "Oh, is this cool? Is it kind of like, this game? Or is it, do you guys meet every week? Or are there locations near me?" There's a huge difference between enthusiasm and blasé attitude. And of course, there's always the tried and true method of, "I'm here for my kid / friend / partner. They're there as an escort. They might be stuck there because their person they're with is way more interested. But not everybody who's in there is going to be as enthusiastic as maybe as the people they're with. So if somebody does say, "I'm here for my blankety blankety blank," that might give you an opportunity later to try to find something they're interested in. But there's a good chance that the other party is going to be the one you want to pay more attention to. Sorry. My nose itches. Sorry. All right. We have the next portion to get on to. While you are talking to these people, we're going to avoid overselling. So this is something that pretty much everybody gets annoyed with, right? Is overselling. So overselling is pushing way too hard to sell your product, or to give people the rundown of what we have, right? So again, we're going to use going to the mall for an example. Say that me and Oz, we're hanging out, and Oz and I are going through the mall, and we're going to go get some ice cream, and it's going to be a great day. and we pass one of those booths where they offer, like a face cream that'll make me look younger because apparently I look old, whatever. And they said, "Young miss, have you tried this before?" Or, "Young miss, you look tired today. Can I help you with that?" And generally, if you tell them no or no thank you or you shake your head, they're gonna be like, "Okay, yep, no, never mind." But on more than one occasion, as I am walking through the mall going to get ice cream, maybe not with Oz, but in general, on more than one occasion, there's been, but you've really got to see this. You should really take a look at this. There becomes a social pressure that starts to become very unpleasant. And that's something we definitely want to avoid with Amtgard, or pretty much anything. Nobody really likes social pressure. But one of the things that you can do is oversell what you are trying to give people. And one of the ways that we do that is we stop and we don't check everything off on our social cue checklist. So again, our social cue checklist is kind of what we looked at above. Are they interested? What's their body language look like? Are they making eye contact? Are they scurrying away? If they are doing any of these things and not particularly wanting to engage, maybe just leave it at one, like quick, "Hey, can I offer you this flyer?" And that's about it. Instead of, "You should really come take a look. Why aren't you coming to take a look?" Avoid anything overly aggressive like that. Which leads into our next point. And I say this with all of the love that I have. We are going to, when we are working at recruitment booths, avoid being cringy. And by cringy, I mean, see you later. All right. And by avoiding being cringy, I mean the following. We are there to sell Amtgard. We are there to give people the opportunity to discover the game that we love, to join a wonderful community. We are not there to tell people about our original character and how cool or edgy or powerful they are. We are not there to tell people, "Yeah, you should totally come hang out because they're super hot nerd babes or dudes or friends." No. We want to avoid doing anything that might make people, like in retrospect, go, "Dude, did you hear them?" Or, "Ugh, that was weird or creepy," or like, "Why would I want to hear about his half dragon, half vampire, half Cthulhu," whatever. That's something that we're going to avoid. When we're there, we are volunteers to help our kingdom and to help our parks. And we are, if somebody asks what kind of character we play, or what stories that they can be told from our adventures, that's totally cool. But again, when you are trying to get people interested in stuff, you should probably leave it at selling the game and not necessarily how super duper cool you or your friends or your characters are. Does that make sense?
So if I can chime in on that.
Oh, please.
One of the best sales tactics in the world is to realize people want to talk about themselves. Do not make it about you in any kind of way. It's about them and the cool things they could be doing. Like, "Hey, what kind of stuff do you enjoy?" And then link it to something that we do in Amtgard. Get them talking about themselves and tie that into what we do and the things that they could do. And it's a real easy sell from that point.
Absolutely, Oberon. And there's a point a little bit further on about linking things to things that people might be interested in, like Skyrim, Game of Thrones, Legend of Zelda, that sort of thing. But like he just pointed out, people usually want to talk about themselves, and we should be able to give them that venue to do so that they can create their own adventures too. All right, we're going to move on to the next section, which is highly attractive language. And that plays in perfectly with what Oberon just gave us that advice, which is drawing parallels. So highly attractive language allows people to have the opportunity to talk about themselves, the things that they like, and what kind of things they would like to experience. So One of the first parallels that you can always draw with people, and that got Sir Abram Stonefist to join Amtgard from Ren Fair, is, do you like, and this blank can be Skyrim, Dungeons and Dragons, Legend of Zelda, Game of Thrones, any of these super popular media depictions or tabletop games or anything like that. A lot more folks have heard of these things than they have heard of Amtgard. But Amtgard is very adjacent to a lot of these things. And so if they like these things, there's a good chance they're going to like Amtgard too. And if you happen to actually know about the thing you're asking them if they like, there's a connection that's already been made. Another thing that you can say to folks is, it's like Role Models, that one movie. We've got so many people from that. I know that's a little silly, but it's true. There has been a couple of media depictions of games like Amtgard that a lot of people are able to make that sort of connection. If you like insert sport here, it's a little bit like that, because Amtgard, while it is a live action role playing game, is actually one of the most active and sport like games when it comes to live action role playing games that's on the market. For those of you guys who have never experienced another live action role playing game, we are at a unique crossroads. So you have games like Daga here, where there's not magic, there's not really role play. It is mostly we're whacking each other. And, they don't have there's no real magic system or anything like that. Of course, on the other end of the spectrum, you have games like Nero or Mythical Realms. And these games are all role play. Combat happens sort of like turn-based, like Final Fantasy. You have a certain amount of hit points, and if you light touch somebody with your weapon, that takes away so many hit points. Combat doesn't really have rules. It's more for show. And so Amtgard is a little bit there in the middle. So we encourage roleplay, and we have a magic system, and we also have the whack system. And we have this beautiful dichotomy between flurb and stickjock, that somebody will always fall somewhere on that spectrum. And so this spectrum is there for everybody. If you are able to attract people with the flurb part of the spectrum of, do you want to play your D&D character? Or, hey, wouldn't it be really cool if you got to be Link? Or you can attract somebody with, hey man, you want to bend it like Beckham? Because we kind of do that here. Good ideas. So drawing those parallels always really, really helps drag people in, because it gives them an opportunity to share the things that they like. If you'll excuse me for one moment, I'm just going to dip off camera for a brief second and itch my nose because I keep touching it, and boy is it itchy, because it's very, very allergy season here. Okay, there we go. Should be good. All right. So one of the other things that people like to do, other than talk about themselves, is knowing what we have that can benefit them, right? Because a lot of folks aren't going to immediately be like, man, I really want to selflessly volunteer hours and hours and hours to sit at a booth at the state fair for like days. That's just what I want to do. A lot of people aren't immediately going to be drawn to that idea. Plenty of our volunteers eventually love the game enough that they want to help in many, many different ways. But right off the bat, maybe not what we want to sell people on. What we should be selling them on are some of the benefits that come with playing Amtgard. This includes a healthy physical and social outlet. Amtgard is wonderfully physical in a way that's very accessible. It's much different than going to the gym and running on a treadmill or being on the elliptical or lifting weights or anything like that. What it is getting an amount of exercise where you're helping your team capture the flag from the enemy base. What it is I'm repetitively running back and forth because I'm dying and going to my spawn and coming back, and we're going and we're coming back and we're going and we're coming back. It is a free fitness program, exactly, Ezreal. But and I'm going to give a little bit of a story regarding this. When I first started Amtgard, it was just me and Valen. And then eventually I wouldn't shut up about it, so my mother joined and my sister joined. And in between the time that she started playing on field And I want to say 6, maybe 8 months later, my mom dropped a good 25 to 30 pounds, and it was the only exercise that she really did. She wasn't interested in sitting around and just eating snacks and playing video games or watching TV anymore. My mom was out there actively doing things on the weekend. She was not able to sit and eat snacks because she was busy crafting or busy going to A&S or busy going to fighter practice. It's a wonderful way for people to get healthy without even realizing they're going to be healthy. That's not even to talk about the social benefits, right? Some of the social benefits of joining AmpGuard is making some wonderful lifelong connections. Obviously, I knew my husband before we started AmpGuard, but having that common plane together really, really helped cement a lot of the foundation that our marriage is built on. We have made a whole ton of friends. We have made some connections that have expounded professionally. I have my job now because of somebody that I met through AmpGuard. There's a whole lot of stories like that, and it's just waiting for more people to discover and be involved, because the more friends that you make, the larger your social circle, the more chance that you have of really becoming a part of that beautiful community. Another thing that you learn through AmpGuard that you can be selling people on is life skills and crafting. I wanted to cosplay so bad. I wanted to be so good at all of this. I tried to make stuff. I was so bad at it before I started AmpGuard. I bought all of my own costumes because, Lord have mercy, I couldn't sew a stitch, even though I thought I could. I could not. And then you join AmpGuard and you actually start picking up a lot of these skills. And they're skills that you either pick up passively or actively learning from people who are happy to pass that knowledge on. We're going to use my wonderful woman-at-arms, Elena, as an example. Elena started AmpGuard last year when she was 16 years old. And Elena had never done anything like this before. Elena did not have just this innate knowledge of how to do leatherworking. And if you guys have not seen any of the wonderful pieces that Elena has made through joining AmpGuard, learning these skills through some wonderful mentors, this young lady has skyrocketed in her ability in an art form that she has discovered that she loved, that she would not have found without AmpGuard. So that's a wonderful thing to tell people too. Hey, you want to learn how to make your own chainmail? Bam, we've got you. You want to learn how to tool leather? Well, bam, we got you. These swords we're using, guess what? Well, bam, we got you. Like, there's a whole plethora of things that people can benefit from joining AmpGuard. And it's not just making friends, it's learning how to do things that they can even do outside of AmpGuard, skills they may have never picked up before. And of course, my number one favorite thing for we have a question over here. No, we don't. Okay. My number one thing for AmpGuard is, of course, the creative outlet of role-playing and team building. For those of you who know me, for those of you who know my husband, we are huge nerds when it comes to role-playing and things like that, and questing. Valen and I met role-playing on World of Warcraft. We continue to role-play through AmpGuard, creating characters, creating stories, having the ability to participate with your friends while making these fantasy characters that you get to embody for a couple of hours every weekend and at big events. That can be huge. And that's a huge sell for some people. Hey, you like to role play? Hey, you want to be your D&D character? Hey, you want to, pretend you're the Dragonborn, or, maybe the ill-fated Ragnar the Red, whatever. Come join us. We've got you. You can role play that for one day a weekend, maybe 2 days a weekend if you're feeling frisky. We've got you. You can escape and play that character. So there's a whole lot of things that if you have the ability to sell these to people, that they're going to grab onto, because there's something for everybody in our game, y'all. You just got to make sure that they know that it's there for them. Oberon, do you have anything you want to pop in?
No, I think you covered it pretty well there.
All right, sounds good. Any questions in the chat before I move on? Nope, looks like we're good. Okay, make sure there's nothing in general. Sad Oz noises because I can't get ice cream with them. Yep. All right. Next, we're going to move on to, this is continued recruiting, securing the commitment. All right. So securing the commitment is the follow through of making sure that somebody at least tries Amtgard outside of our booth. So this is after you have hawked to them to get their attention. This is after you've sold all of those benefits. This is the hook, line, and sinker. Let's reel them in. So the first thing you're going to do to start securing that commitment is use inclusive tense. Inclusive tense, and this is like past tense, future tense, not like I'm camping intense or this is really intense. This is the inclusive tense, language like we have a great time. By using we, not only do you talk about the community that you're in, but we is an inclusive language of already including that person in the action that you're trying to sell them on. You can be whatever class. This is permissive language. It bypasses the barriers of, am I allowed to do this? Can I do this? Is this behind a paywall or anything like this? Using permissive language is use your imagination. You are allowed to do this. This, the only barrier to this is what's in our rules of play. Other than that, you can do whatever. More inclusive language includes, we will pair you up as you learn. So this allows for, not only does it have a promise of learning of, you don't have to be great at this right off the bat, because none of us are great right off the bat. I'm going to tell you what. But it allows learning. It opens social opportunity as a promise. This is, you will be mentored as you are playing. You're not going to be thrown to the fish. You're going to be helped to grow. You're going to be included. You're going to be encouraged. Using this sort of inclusive language lets people know that they are going to have the wind beneath of their wings before they are set free to fly on their own. We're also going to include accessibility when we're talking to people to secure this commitment. You can use our stuff. So there's no financial commitment right away. It's show up as you are, because we've got stuff for you already. It's the same thing with garb, and a character can come later. The pressure to create and perform for strangers is relieved, right? So like a lot of people, I mean, maybe not me, but it's because I'm a giant nerd. A lot of people don't want to show up to a whole group of like 50 people that they don't know and immediately be like, oh yes, I am Valorious, Victorious, the dude, and start playing an immediate character, right? And they're not going to have perfect garb right off the bat. A lot of people are going to be really interested in seeing what we're doing first. So, again, garb and a character can come later. It's more permissive language to say, we just want you there. You don't have to be perfect right off the bat. Just come check us out. There's also the, you can find us all over language, right? So in this chat alone, I was seeing people from up in Astral Winds. We're seeing people down in Icefire Bay. We're seeing people from Ravenstone, from Lupin Moon. This will be seen by people that are out in Dark Lodge Crossing, out in our new friends in Iron Sky, Frozen Coast. We've got some folks that we're representing down there as well. We have got all sorts of parks here in Alaska, and outside of Alaska, we have hundreds of parks in the lower 48. So if you're just visiting Alaska, I can guarantee you there's a park within driving distance of you. Probably the furthest that I've seen somebody from a park is 2 hours. That sucks. That's a bit of a drive every weekend. But you know who does drives even longer than that most of the time? Like Oberon right now is up in Astral Winds, and that's like way more than 2 hours away. So if, it's a bit of a drive if it's that far away, but nonetheless, it's at least within distance. Letting people know that this can be wherever you are, or better yet, if it's not where you are, you can make it where you are. You can start a park. You like this enough? Let us give you the tools to be able to take it wherever you go. And then, of course, we always use gentle encouragement. We're going to have language like, we'd love to see you, versus we will see you. The first one is passive. The second one is active, right? So passive is, we'd love to see you, which is, maybe used for people who don't seem to respond super well to aggressive sales pitches, and that's kind of in that social cue checklist that we took a look at above. We'd love to see you says there's an open invitation. We'd love to see you at our game. Versus we'll see you there. This is somebody that has loudly and enthusiastically said, this is my jam. We send them away with a flyer. We send them away with information. Here is my name. Here is who you can be looking for. We will see you there. Bam. We also use encouragement like we meet here, so you can secure a physical location. You can secure a time. Now, a physical location in public is really important, right? It's not, hey, we're meeting in my mom's basement. No, securing a physical location in public is very important because it helps people feel safe. It lets them know, this is a familiar place. This is somewhere where lots of people go. I am not by myself in somebody's basement. Or, hey, yeah, we play in our backyard. No, this is like, we are highly visible in public. Please come join us. And then, of course, you firm up the time. And then a very important thing, right? So people are going to look for familiar faces when they show up. So if you are at a recruitment booth, either you are going to tell them, I will see you next week, or I will see you eventually, but in the meantime, look for this person, or I'm going to set you up with this person to make sure that you have a contact. People are encouraged when they have familiar faces or folks that they're ready to have another interaction with, which goes back to the let's be pleasant and let's make sure we're not cringy, because we want people to come and hang out with us. And then, of course, we have our flyers, our cards, whatever physical media that we use to give people. This has clear data. It serves as a physical reminder that people can take a look at to, oh, crap, who are those people? Right, it's Amtgard. What time is it? Right here. What's the website? Awesome. It's a very quick reference and a visual aid that is necessary when you're doing recruitment booths, because I will tell you what, we get lots of information overload when we look at our phones. It's easy to get distracted, or when we look at our computers. I can have 30 tabs open. I can be talking to somebody. I could be playing a video game. But if you hand me a paper, chances are, I might lose it, right? But if it's important, I have that physical paper there. I have this reminder of here's the fun that I can be having. They cared enough to make something for me to hold on to. So that's kind of the quick and dirty rundown that I have for a whole lot of this stuff. So pretty much what it runs into is make sure to be presentable, make sure to gauge interest, be ready and willing to talk to anybody who comes up, have a good amount of knowledge, and not everybody is going to be perfect at these booths right away. But the most important thing that you can do is be present, be excited, be enthusiastic, and believe in what you are telling people. If you are telling these people this is one of the most fun activities you will ever have, and you say it with a smile and you say it with sincerity, they're going to believe you. And whether they decide to come hang out with us based on that is one thing, but the truth of our community is like no other is going to shine through your interactions. Oberon, do you have anything to pop in?
I would just double down on where you said if you're out there recruiting, make sure you're going to be at a place with somebody and make that connection. The number one thing that gets people to come out is rapport. People don't come out because they're like, oh, I saw this cool thing one time, so I'm going to go meet a bunch of strangers. They come out because they know, hey, remember we talked to that one person who was like super cool? They said they'd be there. And it gives them that extra comfort to be willing to come into a new environment. Most of us, especially people in the nerd community, we tend to not be the best at broaching into new social circles. So giving them that bridge of like, hey, my name's Oberon. I'm going to be at, Ravenstone Park at 1:00. I hope I see you there. now they have something to come to and someone to be like that lifeline and that bridge to get into the community, instead of just, I don't know, it seemed cool, I guess I'll throw myself into the wild. So make sure, work on that rapport and connection, and give them that solid thing, like Boot was saying, of like, hey, this is where I'm going to be, and I'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. And one of the most important things that I am in agreement with Oberon there is the biggest thing that we can do to help people feel comfortable is to just show up, right? It's to just show up and genuinely want to see them again. Because again, sincerity is very important when you're working with people. And so it's, I'm going to be there. You're not going to be alone. These are, these are our opportunities that you have to try something out without being by yourself, or to help somebody kind of segue you in, because not everybody is a social butterfly. But I can almost guarantee you that anybody who's going to be interested in our game is going to be somebody who really wants to try it but doesn't know where to begin. And we were all there once. So does anybody have any, and you guys can actually go ahead and speak up here in chat. That is the end of most of my notes. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any comments? What can we answer for you? Oh,
I thought that was incredibly comprehensive, and it was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Oz.
Also, still sad I don't get ice cream.
No ice cream for you, Oz.
Sad part sounds, but understandable.
I really enjoyed that. I found myself making a list of the things I need because I'm a month out from an event here, and I was like, oh yeah, that thing. Oh yeah, that other thing. So it was really helpful to have that reminder. I think my biggest challenge is that part where you went over getting people to be presentable. Oh Lord, how do you explain to somebody that their hair smells terrible? Yeah.
I think, and I've run into this. Oh, go ahead, Oberon, you first.
I was just going to say, politely yet directly. You can't beat around the bush with it, but just be nice about it. Like, hey, just so you know, your hair has kind of an odor to it. I really do need you to come tomorrow clean.
Yeah.
There's no nice way.
100%. It's just, yeah, it's easy. Like a kid, I can do that, no problem. When it's an adult who has all kinds of emotional issues, and it's like, yeah.
Something I've found, as I mentioned before, I did work for large anime and video game and media conventions. Something I've found is that if the straightforward approach of asking somebody to bathe doesn't work, having an emergency smell good kit is very important. So this is a kit of dry shampoo. This is a kit of deodorant, hand sanitizer, things like that, Febreze. And it's important to have an emergency kit like that, because even if it's somebody who is normally well-groomed, sometimes accidents happen, or sometimes people are forgetful, or, what have you. Having an emergency preparedness kit for appearance and smell is super duper important.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Holy cow. I'm so sorry about your allergies, too. I can tell that that's making you miserable, but I get it.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I know you guys keep seeing me touch my nose. But yeah, no, just very, if you can, and, some things scented, some things not. So we actually have people here in Loop and Moon that are very, very sensitive, or even allergic to most synthetic smells.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you can find a lot of things that don't come with that synthetic smell, or, aren't perfumes, aren't body sprays. Although keep those on hand, because, like, the people who aren't allergic, they should be wearing them. But if you can also find things that are helpful for that kit, that don't have an odor, or like odorless deodorant is super helpful. That's a good idea too. Just being prepared. I keep a smell good kit in my car. I mean, part of that's because I have a toddler, and toddlers don't always smell great.
Thank you. Very helpful. I was also thinking about a lint roller for cat fur and dog fur.
Yep. Great idea. Also good in emergency preparedness kit, as well as keep an emergency guard repair kit, especially if you have a fight ring. Pant splitting happens really, really often. I had to repair Valen's pants 2 or 3 times last year. And eventually we just replaced the pants. But like, emergencies happen. Kaoru, bless Kaoru's heart, one of my favorite people in the entire world. Kaoru had to stitch me back into my petticoat last year. Yep, I busted my petticoat, and people would come behind our tent where we were, and I mean, of course, I was wearing under things because I'm not a heathen. But they would find me with my skirts all the way up here and Kaoru underneath of them, having to sew me back in to the underwire of my petticoat because it had popped out and broken. So keep an emergency kit of like glue and needles and thread and things like that.
I did have a question.
Of course, what can I answer for you?
So I did ask in the chat, but I didn't get answered. But I was gonna make a vest for the pirate weekend, but I was gonna distress it a little bit, but like with coffee or tea, and I was just wondering, would that be okay? It's gotta be clean, but is that kind of thing okay? Or
there is a big difference between purposeful smudging, where you're achieving a look, and I haven't washed this in a year and it smells of body odor and butts, right?
I bought it like the other day, so that's kind of impossible.
Exactly. As long as it doesn't smell like body odor and butts, and like if it's a purposeful appearance, there's a big difference between that and I just rolled out of my mom's basement.
No, we don't even have a basement.
Exactly. There you go.
No, I just want. Well, I got it. It's a nice color, but I'm like, it's a little too clean cut for the vibe I was going for, so I was just gonna distress it with either coffee or tea, but nothing heavy, just little markings here and there. But I was like, is that okay? Like, do you want clean cut visually, or do you just want it to not smell like trash, I guess?
It doesn't have to be like military clean cut, as long as you are presentable. If you would like some advice on distressing in a really cool way, I would go down to sewing and or to the general art chat and ping Elena Ferngrove. She does a whole lot of costume stuff, and she's distressed plenty of things with tea and coffee for me.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Can I give any other advice? Does anybody have any more questions? Oberon, do you have anything else you want to chime in with? What can we answer for you folks before our time's up?
I do have one I just randomly remembered.
Yeah, what's up, honey?
So there are some events where they do this. I just want to know, just to get this out of the way, if, like, hypothetically, if I do end up volunteering, is admission paid, or do we still have to pay at the front?
So that's going to vary from event to event. Generally, we do have vendor bracelets for people who are actually on schedule. But again, details for that are specific for each event.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just curious if you knew.
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, for the Three Barons Fair, we have set wrist bracelets this weekend for the people who are on our schedule. But beyond that, if you are staying after your scheduled shift, you will have to purchase admission. So it's not free admission to go hang out at the fair and do whatever. It's, I'm here to do a job. If I want to do anything outside of that job, I need to purchase my way in like everybody else.
Oh, okay.
And
I was just wondering how that would work. That's all.
Yeah, you're absolutely good. And that's a really good question because, again, it varies from event to event.
Yeah. Thank you.
For sure. All right. If we don't have any more questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm going to start wrapping up. You're very welcome, Arcturus. And I'm really happy that Oberon and I were able to come to... Oh, Oberon, I saw your microphone go off. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, very well done.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me out. I appreciate it. I'm very happy to defer and listen to your wisdom because you've done this for a long time too. And yeah, so this is going to be mind out there, Mr. Engine. Oh, what's up, Hazel? I see your microphone come off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say thank you.
Oh, well, you guys are very welcome, and thank you for Oberon for helping me out too. Oh my gosh. Sorry for the car out there. I'm really happy that we are able to kind of do this before the event too. This will be recorded and again disseminated to the kingdom and to the other parks. And it's definitely, by all means, not a completely comprehensive guide. Each interaction that you have with each individual person might differ. And I am definitely not the end-all be-all authority on this sort of thing. I'm just a gal who's really enthusiastic about having more people play our game. And, you know, it's been nice to be able to work with people and to learn about how best to run, at least, you know, in the ways that I'm able to, events like this. So with that, thank you all for attending. Thank you for being willing to learn. And remember, as you are talking with people that are interested in Amtgard, they are more than just a body. They are more than just an NPC interaction. Every person is different with their own wants, needs, goals, and motivations. Our job is to help them find something that they might enjoy in the game that we love very much and to share that with them. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a great rest of your week. And if you have the opportunity, come visit the Northreach booth at the Three Barons Renaissance Fair next weekend. And so ends our presentation on recruitment and possible retention in Amtgard. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are off of Discord now, which is I'm just now directly addressing this video. Thank you to our King Gideon for giving us the opportunity to hold this class and for reaching out to both myself and to Oberon to help edify and educate our populace. Of course, if you guys have any questions, you are able to find information on the Kingdom of Northreach and Amtgard at akamtgard.com. You are also welcome to join our community on our Discord. You can find that information at the same website. You can also take a look at the Kingdom of Northreach on Facebook, which is another one of our social hubs. If you'd like to contact me directly, you can go to either of those places and ask for Lady Boot. Thank you. Wonderful time, and we'll see you next.